This is SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk. Check this out. Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by SWBC Mortgage. Customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now, your host, Shannon Gross.
It is Wednesday night, 7 p.m. at the Star in Frisco, and that can mean only one thing. It is time for another episode of Cowboys Crosstalk. Shannon Gross manning the ship here alongside me in person at the Star, my co-host on a little podcast we do on DallasCowboys.com, the great Nate Newton. How are you today, Nate?
I'm doing great, and I promise you I won't talk behind your back.
Okay, thank you, Nate. We'll get to that here in just a minute.
Okay, I'm just letting you know I'm with you all the way.
Over at the mothership, we have Mike Fisher. How you doing, Mike? You holding it down over at 105.3 The Fan?
Outstanding, man. Thanks for having me. And I am my history with Nate Newton is there we
deep.
Go. How about that?
There you go. Mike's help.
I'm proud to be a part of this. My history with Nate Newton is golden. So it's always fun to spend an hour with Nate Newton.
Well, great. And you know what, Nate, you fall in this category. There are a handful, maybe a couple of handfuls of guys in Cowboys history that you can call them by one name and you know exactly who you're talking about. Troy, Emmett, Nate. We have one on the show tonight with us.
I hear you, man.
Let's welcome to the show the great Dat. That's all I need to really say, but we'll go ahead and say Dat Nguyen. How you doing, Dat?
Good, guys. How you doing, Shannon? A long time no see. Hope you guys are doing well. Big Nate, always great seeing you. Mike,
Good to see you, brother.
It's an honor to be with you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Dat, Elvis, Cher, only the big entertainers like that.
And make sure make sure that it's not a K and a I, because I think that T is silent, huh?
Well,
you know what's funny about that is like I you don't know, all my life I've been called all this name, Dat, Dot, and then all of a sudden here in the last couple of years it's been Dak, and I was like, I'm not Dak.
What have you been up to, man? I haven't seen you since training camp, probably 4 years ago. Where are you living and what you up to these days?
I'm back in the Dallas Metroplex here in Grapevine, Texas. I was fortunate to be awarded a franchisee of a Chick-fil-A. So the last 4 years, I've been working here in Fort Worth. The store is downtown Fort Worth at Montgomery Plaza, right behind, right there, the Montgomery Ward. Old distribution center now. It's called Montgomery Plaza. It's up and coming West 7th side there of Fort Worth. It's funny. 4 years into it, as I finally get that motor going or that team going. It takes about 4 years to build a team. You know, the concepts I use is very similar to what I've learned all my life on the football field. And now I'm using it and helping other people one day fulfill their dreams.
Wow.
So you've been there for 4 years. Have you graduated from the fry cook yet? Are you all fries yet?
I did that early on. It's a training system that we go through, and I think I got a checklist, a check. I don't get a grade, but I get a check. But I think I did pass that fries.
Okay, good,
Wow.
good. And if you ever need any help in the kitchen, you know, Nate slimmed down a little bit from his playing days, but he can still house a little bit of food. So if you ever got any leftovers, just send them this way.
Nate's really good on the other side of the counter.
Yes, sir. But you know, I will. Are you a on-site type guy? That? Or you just you kind of let people run it for you now?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A does not like absentee owners. So they want you to be there. They want you to know what's going on with the store. And what's nice about what they do, and I'm a hands-on person, so I really want to know my team members. I want to know how people are doing, families are doing, and that's a big part of me, is that, you know, there's things that you could do, a lot of things in life, but with Chick-fil-A, I got into the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business. My mom ran a restaurant when I was growing up, and when I left coaching, I said, I still love football, and I still want to coach, but what is the closest thing to coaching? And I remember recalling my mom with her team, employees, relatives, friends that work for her, how she impacted their lives. So that's how I got into it. And I'm very fortunate to be part of Chick-fil-A. And we got quite a bit of big staff, a little bit right at 100 employees. So it's quite a bit of people. And then you build a team, and you build your culture, and you allow them to succeed. And just like anything, a good teams, you got to have good coaches, you got to have good leadership, and good captains. Basically, what it is. So you have a chance to win. And the hardest thing is that in football, you get to practice, make mistakes, correct them, and you move on to the game days, right?
Right.
In our business, it's a game day every day. So you coach on the run.
Well, we know you guys are closed on Sunday, so that means you've had plenty of chances to watch Cowboys football this year. So what do you see? There's a lot of things, obviously, that are wrong with this team right now. And, anytime you start infighting, we'll get to that in a minute,
right,
comments start getting out to the media, then you really start having some problems. But, Dad, from what you've seen on the field, obviously a lot of issues with defense. What do you think the Cowboys' biggest problem or struggle has been so far this year?
Well, I think there's multiple things. I think you can't pinpoint one thing. A lot of you guys, I think we can sit here and pick and choose. Hey, the defense not playing good. A new system coming in, didn't get the off season, didn't get training camp. And you guys got to think about football. And Nate, you can attest to this. It's repetition. You got to run plays. You got to know the formation. You got to know down the distance. You got all this factors in, and it becomes clockwork. When you don't get to do it, it's hard. And I look back at the situation in right now, 6 games into the season. I still think, hey, it's a long season ahead of you. Even though they're not playing great, things are not clicking, and Nate can attest this. There's times when you don't think anything's working, and all of a sudden it clicks. So I say that the number one thing that's the biggest problem, I guess, is the quarterback position. Unfortunately, injury is part of the game. You can't control that. I was on a team, or during my career, we lost Troy left, and we couldn't find a quarterback till number 9. I know it's only one number right after 8 to 9.
Right.
But there was like 20 guys in there that we went through. So quarterback number 1 position, not taking anything from Andy Dalton, but you got to have that guy. You got to have that Q. You got to make him. He's unfortunately he's going to be out. But there's so many things. But I think there's time, and there's hope for time. I'm a guy half cup half empty or half full, and I like to know that, hey, there's a chance, and we'll grow and we'll get better. And could it be evaluation of, are we doing too much on offense? Are we doing too much on defense? What it is, I think coaches got to realize that, hey, simplicity is the key. Bill Walsh always talked about simplicity and execution. And 6 games into it, your division's not good. There's been times when, a lot of times, not many, but there's been times that teams that make the playoff or win the division has been under 500. So there is hope, and now you're going to have a strings of divisional games. So I think that's going to show you where you just get 1-2, confidence change. And they can tell you 1-2 wins, mentality change, attitude change, and that's what you hope for. So I can't pick and choose things that are bad because it's easy to find the bad things. And I think and for us outside looking in, you don't know exactly what goes in, how they're doing stuff or how they're grading. I can tell you there's a lot of the Joey Thomas, he's been a bright spot for them. He's been a solid player, I think, watching him as a linebacker, as I always do.
Joe Thomas.
Smith's been up and down, but the injuries to those linebackers I've heard quite a bit.
Mike, we'll get to you in just a second. Since we're on the cup half full train, Nate, I know you've got a lot of hope. We talk about it on
always.
the show. What are you hopeful for? What gives you a little hope? And then what are you really concerned about?
This here, I know if we do this, if we do this, Mike, if we don't turn the ball over, the games will change. Once we turn the ball over, we give it to we put our defense in a bad way. And our defense, that is when our stock is not in our defense. Our stock is in our offense. So once Zeke realized that he's going to have to run for 4 or 5 weeks because they're going to have tape. Once he learned that he got to run and cover it up for a while, not put that ball on the ground, our fortunes will change.
All right, Mike.
Yeah.
Half full, half empty, hope, no hope. Where you at on this thing?
You have to have hope, otherwise you might as well not show up to work. And that goes for every profession, no matter how dark it looks. Nate's point about the numbers, they are minus 12 in turnovers, turnover ratio. That's almost twice as bad as the next worst team, and it's almost catching up with the franchise record, which I believe was minus 15, which happened in 1960, which is, they were an expansion team. So they were a bunch of farmers, forklift drivers, and plumbers. And if you were a plumber who weighed 200 pounds, you got to play for the Cowboys in 1960. So that part of that is an embarrassment. But I would say that my major concern is, and I've talked about this for a month now, and of course the NFL Network report really puts some wheels on it. There is a disconnect between what the coaches are trying to do and what the players want to do. And that doesn't have to be anybody's fault, but it is a fact.
Yeah, and I want to get into that. I want to get into that next segment. Might spend a lot of time on it coming from your point of view, Nate, what happens and that as players, usually you like to keep things in-house. You don't like things leaking out to the media. And when it's anonymous sources, I know no one likes that term. I mean, hell, even Aaron Rodgers said you don't like anonymous sources coming out, in the media. So let's take our first break. When we come back, Mike, I want to get into it with you about what you're hearing and if you've heard any follow-up after that report came out yesterday.
Wow.
Nate, want to talk to you and Dad about, did that ever happen when you guys were playing? Were there ever any anonymous sources on the team or close to the team that air quotes that came out and said anything?
Wow.
And Nate, I know you've got some opinions on how Jimmy would handle anonymous sources. So We'll get into all that. We're going to take a quick break. You are listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
to SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Back to the show. Shannon Gross alongside Nate Newton, Mike Fisher, the Mothership 105.3, The Fan, and special guest Dat Nguyen. Nate, did you know that at SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away?
A click away?
A click away, yes. Visit SWBC.com to learn more, Nate, and start your next adventure.
Can I click while we're on?
You can, but I
Okay.
would prefer you pay attention to this segment because it's very important.
Okay.
Because I want to get feedback from you being under Jimmy Johnson.
Right.
And Dat, you were under another guy very similar to Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get a player's take on this because we actually quoted Bill Parcells in our show today,
Yes,
Nate.
we did.
But first, Mike, I want to go to you. What are you hearing after the NFL Network report came out about some, players had some things about coaching, things like that. What did you hear? First off, did you hear it before the report? And have you heard anything since the report?
Yeah, here's the specific example. And the first three of them were on the record, if we go back and think about it. Jalen Smith came out and said, what we're doing is too complicated defensively. The changeover is too complicated. And I'll get back to that in a minute. Xavier Woods said, we don't go 100% all the time. And Tank Lawrence said, we're soft. And then we in the media, not trying to do secret sources, just taking those three quotes and going to Coach McCarthy, and he said, nope, false, fake news, false. But they weren't anonymous sources. Nobody was trying to gut cut his Cowboys. We were asking him questions about his players' own truths. And a great example of this is, and I had a coach, doesn't coach here now. He said, go look at film and watch how often other teams go up-tempo on the Cowboys' defense. And I said, okay, why? He said, because while they're still installing this defense, the middle linebacker, Jalen, most of the time, Jalen's still making the calls and the other team's saying, you guys are still making your calls? Fine, we're running a play. We'll get 8 yards. Now it's 2nd and 2. Now, you want to bring in a new defense. Sorry, we're going to run a play again. And this isn't Jalen's fault. This is everybody's fault. The defense is trying to figure out. Dat knows this. He lived it. Nate, you're nodding your head. He's trying to call what the secondary is supposed to do, what the linebacker is supposed to do, what the defensive line. Oh, they just ran the play. Sorry, 8 yards. That's a problem, and that's one of the things. It's not just defensive players that are upset by the change. There's offensive players who aren't pleased too. But that's typical of the change that the new administration has made. That the players are going, guys, we respect you, but what you're doing isn't working.
Wow. That's why Leighton was so big, and we talked about that on our pre- and post-game shows. You probably talked about it too, Fish, and that you probably see it during the games. We talk that guy who's calling your plays, that's connecting you to the front and to the back end. This guy has to be sharp, and as he see it, as he is perceiving it to come, he has to be making adjustments, and Dak can speak on that more than me as a linebacker.
Yeah, what's funny is that you said that. I didn't realize that was the issue with communication. As we know that nowadays the technology is so much better that the coach is thinking about what he's going to call. And when he calls a play, he has to press a button to call it, and it goes into the player's helmet. Where when we used to play, Nate, there was easy. When that issue happens, we didn't ever have it wasn't there.
Right.
But quick signal, wristband, hey, let's get the signals in and just call it. And at the end of the day, if you don't get a call in, just call something simple.
Right.
Play a cover 4, play safe, and play for another down. And I think that's what you're going to see as the season progresses, that if that's the problem with communication, too complex, hey, let's simplify it. And then also the most important thing is call play, everybody's on the same page. I remember Dave Campbell was the defense coordinator one year when I was there. He said, hey, I don't want 10 guys doing one thing and one guy do wrong.
Right.
I'd rather have all 11 guys do the right thing, even if it's a wrong call. As long as you guys are on the same page, it will all work out.
And look at
for the next down.
And you can pick any of these games. Look at the Atlanta game. Again, Dat, this is your department way more than the rest of ours. The number of busts in that game where guys are just running, guys are open by 20 yards. That means that one guy or two guys or three guys, it's not that they're not trying. They don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. There's so much film on guys. You guys mentioned Joe Thomas. I think Joe Thomas is a good player. There's a lot of times there's Joe Thomas just standing there. And it's not because he's not a hustler. It's because he's hesitating, because he doesn't know what to do. Look at how many times in the last 5 quarters, they've had 4 times that the special teams don't have the right men on the field. That's unheard of. I've never seen that before 3 times in a game, not in Little League, let alone the NFL. Well, that's a communication problem as they're trying to change systems. I liked it in Nate Newton's day when the coaches, if they wanted to send in a play, they just put it on the wagon train and send it across send it up the Oregon Trail.
Well, it's a lot of things that go into football in today's technology. But what we have to do here, man, is when a player is griping and upset, I think McCarthy handled it the best way he could in saying, okay, I normally ignore that type of thing, but since it's so early, I've never been a part of a team where 6 games in for a new coach to hear this. And so you're right, Fish. We've heard it several times by individual players. And then Miss Slater, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, she brought it to a head, and it's off and running. So I feel bad, but I'm going to say this. Football is not a dictatorship. I mean, it's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. And I believe that one voice should be heard, and that's Coach McCarthy's, especially early in the year and throughout the first year. That's just what I believe.
Dat, do we as fans and media, when something like that is said, do we make a bigger deal out of it than it really is in the locker room? Like, is this a guy saying something to the media, as an anonymous source? Are players really upset about that, or is it behind the scenes it kind of like, oh, that's just so-and-so blowing off steam, or is it really, can it create a big deal and a lot of friction in the locker room?
Well, I think there's a lot of things you can look at. It can go both ways, in my opinion. I experienced quite a bit of that before. During our time, it's just that, hey, are they trying to stir something up? Are they trying to divide us? And that's what's going on with the team. I think as players, you really try to focus because there's so much stuff going on. You're trying to win the game. You're trying to go out, and it becomes a routine. When you're in season, you barely have time to do anything. Next thing you do is, hey, you get your body prepared. Monday, Tuesday, you're off. Wednesday, you come in. Hey, guess what? We're practicing. We got a new game plan, and this is what we're doing. So you don't have much time to worry about the extra curriculum activities that's going on with the media, with all that stuff. But it's just hearing what you guys talk about, because you guys are more there than I am. And, it's in the business that you're in. Evaluation is key, right? Number one, from drafting to play to practice, every day is an evaluation. And it's key, too, for the coaches to see that. They got to look themselves in the mirror and evaluate themselves, too. Right. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Is it too much? Is it too complicated? Are we giving them the best opportunity to succeed? When you are not on the same page as players, we can fix that. But guess what? If the coaches and players are on the same page, that's a big problem. So for me, I hope that the season started, and hopefully we can get a divisional game and win the game. Because when you win one game, guess what?
Fixes a lot of that.
Everything's a lot better next week.
Shannon, can I take up for the media just a little bit, especially since all 4 of us are either in the media or have been.
One time,
right? Very few of us are trying to divide the locker room on purpose. Everyone. Nate knows a couple who are cut that way.
Skip, but just calling the name. Yeah. You call that name, everybody knows. Yeah, we know it's divided. Yeah.
But most of us are trying to be responsible. We don't like having to use anonymous sources. It'd be much better just to get everybody to say it on the record, for attribution, right out loud. It would make us all look better. But sometimes, and Nate, I know you'll cop to this. Now, I'm not saying Nate Newton, in my many years covering him, ever told me like dirty, terrible secrets that ruin. But I could go to Nate and say, I need a tip. What's going on?
Right.
Or who missed that block? Or how's that play supposed to work? And I wouldn't quote Nate. He's just helping me. And Dad has helped me. So the media isn't.
And Michael Irvin has really helped you.
Michael Irvin helped. Michael Irvin made my career. Absolutely. Yeah. If it wasn't for Michael Irvin, I'd just be Shannon Gross. No, not really.
Shots fired. That's okay. I'll take it.
And so, the Cowboys of that era. Again, this predates Dat and predates the great Shannon Gross. But you guys were very cooperative, and I think that part of it is because you trusted that a guy like me, that I wasn't trying to burn you, and I had no intent to burn you. I'm trying to get educated so I can help the fan understand. You know, what was that route? Nate, what were we trying to do there? What's the mood in the locker room? And you guys were very helpful on that. And sometimes it was anonymous, and it was never meant to be destructive.
I tell you like this here, man. You build relationships. You know, I know a couple of guys, you know, got relationships with guys now. You build relationships, but it's just the Cowboys are so huge.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw. Something like what the young lady brought out, man. And I'm quite sure somebody brought that to her attention. It just caught fire, man. And it fueled every major show for the last 2 days.
This is like covering the White House.
Yes, it
It's
is.
that. I mean,
Which one? Mine or you?
No. Now, I'll tell you this. This is where Shannon Gross will always be better than me. First of all, Shannon Gross is terrific. You know I love you. Nate Newton never did tell me about the White House. Never did. But don't you agree, Shannon, that DallasCowboys.com is gigantic? And with all due respect to our love for our country and politics, I think more people like the Cowboys and care than what's happening in whatever president's White House on a given day. This is important, man. This is football religion, and of course, Dat and Nate are two guys that have stood at the top of the pulpit.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time. You know, the star is over my right shoulder here in the studio, and that star carries a lot of weight, both good and bad. I mean, it's very scrutinized, things that normally wouldn't be a story, even locally with a lot of teams in any sport. They're national news when it happens to the Cowboys.
Right.
So it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a not so good thing. If this happens in Jacksonville or somewhere else,
come on, man, for real, they ain't gonna say a word,
right? But it's not even a story.
I learned a long time ago. If Dale Hellestray had a hangnail, I better have a story on it.
All right, fellas, let's take our second break. We had a new quarterback this game. Andy Dalton started his first game as a Cowboy. I want to get all three of your opinions. You know, the offense didn't do a whole lot. You know, Zeke contributed to that. And, kudos to Zeke for owning up after the game and putting it on his shoulders and say, hey, I've got to be better. But is Dak that good? Is this offensive line that bad that Andy Dalton didn't have a chance? Obviously, they've got to change the game plan a little bit. I want to get into a little bit of that. Got another game this week against the team in Washington. I want to talk about that. And I don't know, maybe we'll get some good football stories out of Dat Nguyen and Nate Newton before we get off this show. But let's take our next break. When we come back, all of that and more. You're listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Nate Newton and Shannon Gross holding it down at the Star Frisco Studios. Mike Fisher at 105.3 The Fan Studios. Dat Nguyen somewhere in the Metroplex over in the Grapevine area. We are back. You're listening to Cowboys Crosstalk. Dat, you look really intense during the breaks. Are you doing homework? What are you doing over there, man?
No. My nephew texted me, and he's first year in college. My daughter does acrobatics in Plano, so when I drive to Plano, I go about 3-4 times a week in Plano. So I finally thought of him for some reason. I said, hey, I want to text him just to see when we can grab dinner. So that's what I was doing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were breaking down film or something in the break. I was going to see what we needed to talk about.
Let me go and watch this film and see if it was what the communication problems is, so I can help the coaches.
Oh, all right. Let's talk about Andy Dalton. Nate, we'll start with you.
Okay.
What did you see with Andy Dalton? I had a lot of hope for Andy going into this game. I know you were a big proponent of Andy
and
going into this game. You still there?
I'm still there.
Okay.
Still there.
What happened this week?
Held the ball too long. Receivers wasn't as crisp. And when we lost the right guard, Zach, that messed up our offensive line. I call him the president because he is the guy that keeps this line cool and calm.
Zach Martin.
Yeah, Zach Martin. And that's why I've always called him the president, because when he came in, I thought he put the finishing touches. He came in a professional. And he plays like one. He handles himself like one. So when that went down, I knew that Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, was going to really start bringing it. And he did, and we couldn't answer. But I also thought that Coach Moore and the quarterback, what you call him, Rocket Crotch Rocket?
No. Red Rifle.
That's not what we call it.
I'm just saying, whatever his name is, I believe in him.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the missile family, but that wasn't the one.
But no, I believe that this week, him and the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach will devise something, and we'll see a much better Andy Dalton.
All right, Mike, do you have that much faith in Andy?
Yeah, I hope that the Cowboys were fibbing when they said, "Oh, Dak, Andy, we don't have to change much," because obviously that's wrong. That wouldn't be fair to Andy Dalton to not change much. I covered the 49ers when I was a very young man, and very young. And the 1 year, like Joe Montana threw 12 interceptions. And Bill Walsh went to him and said, let's go study those. And they discovered that 7 of the interceptions were all on the same route. So Bill Walsh says to Joe Montana, why do you think 7 of the 12 interceptions were on the same route? And he goes, because, Coach, I can't throw that route. Oh, well then they tore the page out of the playbook. They have to do that here with Andy Dalton. There's things that he can do like Dak. There's things that he can't do like Dak. And I agree with Nate. I think another week now of retailoring what this offense can be will help Andy Dalton. But the offensive line that finished that game and played most of that game, and won't have Brandon Knight in it this week, of course, their average age is 22.
Thank you.
And their combined NFL experience is 4 years. All of them combined. So and I don't say this disrespectfully, I'm only trying to be funny a little bit. If you took those same 5 guys and rolled them into Ohio State, okay, fine. You'd have good offensive line. You'd have a bunch of 22-year-old seniors. They're 22. A bunch of 22-year-old seniors, and they would be really good in college football. It's hard to be really good at 22 with no experience here. Nate knows that.
Oh, man, you preaching, man. But I'm going to let Shannon, I can go on and on, but Shannon, continue on.
Let's hold that thought, because
Yes.
we got a pretty good former offensive lineman in the room here with me. So I want to get your take on that. Before we do that, Dat, Andy Dalton's performance, what are you thinking? You got a little hope going into the rest of the season?
Good.
I do have a lot of hope on him. I know he's a well-seasoned veteran player in this league, so he knows the ins and out. Going into the game, I don't think he had good field position. As like anything we do as athletes, as you haven't played in a while, you're coming in, you have a lot on your shoulders, a lot of things going through your head, and you want to have some rhythm. And unfortunately, they didn't get any rhythm. We didn't get any positive plays, anything to build on. And I think that was a big part in my evaluation on him, is that he didn't get a fair shot. Unfortunately, Zeke fumbled a couple of times, and you were behind the 8 ball. Now the game plan's changed. I've opened up a little bit more, and he wasn't comfortable. And then the offensive line went down, and then the offensive line is as good and giving up the timing. So there's a lot of that factor in. And I think another week of practice, timing with the receivers. I think playing in the team coming up, I think it's going to be interesting what's going to happen. But I think that's where he's at. He'll get better because he'll know, hey, what did I do wrong? What did I do good? Hey, let's build on the good ones and let's forget the bad one and move on.
Nate, the offensive line looks completely different. You went from one of the best offensive lines in the league a year and a half ago, a year ago. Now it's completely different.
Yes, sir, it is.
You don't even know who's on the team, really, who's starting from week to week. What do they do? They're going into Washington this week. They got some dogs in Washington on the front seven. I mean, the games that I have watched, what are they going to do this week?
The same thing I did after we gave up 11 sacks against Philadelphia. You remember that, Mike?
I do.
Your coach.
Eggman doesn't remember it.
Yeah, he does.
His head's still spinning.
That's why we had to get him. It wasn't no concussion protocol. He had to live through it. What I said it earlier, and I'm glad to repeat it. The offensive coordinator, the head coach, and the offensive line coach has to get together. You have enough experience there to be in a situation where you can get these guys serviceable.
Yeah.
These guys will only get better, especially if the offensive line coach continue to help them be in better situations.
And don't you guys agree? Joe Philbin probably is doing a pretty good job.
Oh, he's doing a great job. Shannon will tell you every week I'd say, great job, Coach Philbin.
Yeah.
You said it so perfect, Mike. 22-year-olds. If there was anywhere else in college, we would be talking about number one first-round picks.
Right.
But they're grown men that they finna face that are number one picks for Washington. This team will not be the same team 5 weeks from now. I don't know what the record will be, but this offensive line will be a much, much better offensive line 5 weeks from now. All we have to do is not put the ball on the ground, and the quarterback has to get the ball out of his hands.
Guys, there's a living example in Nate Newton. What were you when you were 21 years old? Were you in Washington? Or were you still in college?
I was probably about 470.
I don't mean that. Well, partly I do, yeah.
When I came into the league at like 21.
Okay.
I was a youngster, yes, sir, and I was at Washington, a free agent, yes, sir.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
They had the Hogs too. It didn't work.
I mean, it took you a while to become the Nate Newton.
I went to the USFL first a year and groomed up a guy named Marty. He helped me so much. And then when I came back to the NFL. It was to the Dallas Cowboys, and here I sit, man, talking to you great guys.
Right.
Yeah, and I think one thing that gives you a little hope with this offensive line is in years past, one guy would get hurt, and they would forget how to block.
That's right.
They would forget everything.
Yes.
Now you got a bunch of guys that you don't even know their last names, never played together, and you're keeping your quarterback upright at least.
Yes.
Probably got to get the ball out a little bit quicker this week than he did last week.
It's schemes that will help you. You know, I don't know how he is as a booter. I don't know how he is just moving 2 steps over, setting the strength one way or the other. What you have to do, and I've seen it with the great teams over the years, they start out max protected. And as the game get going, and as like Dat said, as you start flowing, then you start releasing guys off that line and getting them into the routes. But you start the game protecting yourself and giving your quarterback a chance. You know, and yes, the defense has an advantage because 2-man route, 3-man routes, but you gotta get a rhythm. So this is where we start, and no turnovers. No turnovers.
Yeah, I think my 2 points with this is that those guys are young, inexperienced, obviously, and now all week they're going to hear and watch film and say, oh, man, that's one of the best front seven we're going to face. So it's going to be a little bit challenging. And how do you get those guys to get confidence? Is that a max protect, just what Nate said, or hey, do you put 2 tight ends in and just help them out? I don't know what it is, what the philosophy, if they're going to come in. And I still go back to Bill Parcells. And sometimes when I think about coaching, I said, he was so good because he will break down tape and say, okay, here's my strength. If they have a great front seven, if I substitute that Sam linebacker to that nickel, they're not as good as they were with the front seven.
Right.
So now we go 11 personnel. Okay, we open up a little bit. And guess what? Cowboys have 3 good receivers. Oh, you might start with 11 personnel and have a tight end on. I don't know how they're going to do it, but stuff like that kind of makes you think a little bit because now that's something that, hey, okay, it's game planning, putting your team in the best position to succeed, even though right now, uncertainty about confidence, facing a good front seven.
Oh, sweet.
How do you beat that?
Dat, do you do anything as a defense differently? Do you game plan any different if you're Washington, knowing that this is a banged up young offensive line with the quarterback that hasn't played with these guys a lot? I mean, Arizona just pinned their ears back and just went. I mean, do you change the game plan any this week if you're Washington?
Well, if you didn't have the 3 receivers that we have, I think that will not change the game plan, meaning that, hey, I'll break down all the film saying, hey, what hurt them at the end of that game or during that game against Arizona. Let them show me that they fixed it or they're able to stop it. If it's 5-man rush, 6-man rush, whatever it is that they did, whatever combination they did in the back end. But if it was without those receivers, but if you have those 3 receivers, because you're going to put them on the island. Because if you bring pressure, guess what? There's 2 ends to it, right? You're going to be a man-to-man coverage. Somebody's going to make a play. And I'll take that shot. But for me, Washington, I don't think will change much. They will come and they're going to pressure early. And they're going to try to say, hey, prove to me that you guys can stop it. If you don't, guess what? We're going to let it bleed until you guys fix it.
But, Shannon, let me throw this in. Go back to the Cleveland game. Myles Garrett, right? They told Myles Garrett, let's which one of these 5 guys you want?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they found one. And that's where Myles Garrett lined up. And he might not line up there the rest of the year. Washington can do some of the same thing. They will figure out which guy they want against which guy, and they'll move. Now, Chase Young, I think Chase Young is a little dinged up, but I assume he'll play. And he'll go after whoever the easiest to go after. That's tough.
I'm with you, Dak. I'm with you, Mike. The thing here is they have the front 4 to where they can line up and play you man-to-man. That's the scary thing. Now, can Kendall Fuller, Landon Collins, and all those guys on the back end duplicate what Budda Baker, Kirkpatrick, and Peterson? Can they duplicate that?
Yeah.
And that's what Dad is saying. Can their corners duplicate and their safeties duplicate what happened? Now, we know up front they can.
Right.
But can they do it in their linebackers and in their secondary?
Hopefully the answer to the question is that's why they're 1-5. I mean, they are 1-5.
Yeah.
They're not the 93 Cowboys. They're the 2020 Washington WFTs. They're still 1-5.
Yeah, but you know what? They're probably looking at their offense like we look at our defense.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of us are saying good Washington, and some of them are saying good Dallas.
Drugstore fixers.
All right, let's tell you what. Let's take our last break. When we come back, let's talk about the game a little bit and maybe some other things when we come back. You're listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
SWBC Mortgage, customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Do like Nate. Click away. Visit SWBC.com today. Start your next adventure. Start it now.
I tried to click away and you wouldn't let me.
Because you have too much good insight, and we need you in this conversation. We need you solely focused on this show.
Talking
and this
about
last,
the red rifle.
This last segment, you got it right that time. That
The pocket rocket.
Very non-offensive that time. Very non-offensive.
Okay.
So, all right, let's get back to it. Let's talk a little Washington. I almost say the wrong word when I call them by the team name. The team in Washington. Cowboys football this weekend. A guy that you're familiar with, Nate, Jack Del Rio, is their defensive coordinator. Dat, you didn't play with Jack, did you?
No, I did not.
No, Nate.
Jack was long gone.
Yeah.
He was coaching. He was coaching.
Special teams coaching with Dak.
Okay.
When Dak came in, he was special team coach for somebody.
So, but you guys are both familiar with him. What is he going to bring to the game and to the Cowboys this weekend?
He's on that film right now. You could tell Jack knew the game when we played. Him and Ken Norton played together. And they were pretty smart guys. They could pre-read things pretty good. They always help their defense. They'll get guys lined up, and plus they would also, that you probably was this type of guy too, where they would call the strength of the defense, and if need be, help with the back end coverage, with a safety or something. But more importantly, they were like strong right, and they'll give you a couple of plays off that form. Be aware of this, be aware of that. Be aware of this, be aware of that. And that's when I finally realized it's a difference in a lot of linebackers. Some guys just get you lined up and they thinking about their job. And some guys can alert you. Woody was good at route combinations. Watch for this, watch for this. Hey, man, if you want to go on this, I got you covered. I mean, some guys got it like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if Fish heard anything that some of them guys may have it like that.
You wish Sean Lee was playing.
Yeah.
Sean Lee has it. Sean Lee has it all day long.
Yeah.
You need him. You need him involved somehow. The Jack Del Rio thing, by the way, another great old anonymous source for me is Jack Del Rio.
Yeah.
What I think him and Ron Rivera have done is bring to a Washington organization that is really so often kind of a cluster bleep. And the record's not good, and they're not good, and they're not going to be good for a while. But it's two guys that just are good, solid, know what they're doing guys, and you don't want a clown show, which is a phrase, by the way, a phrase that I've used here in Dallas now a couple times, and I don't regret it yet. But I think Washington has, with those two guys in charge, they are now a more respectable organization than they've been.
Yeah, they're both former linebackers in the National Football League, and they're building that team through defense. As we always say, 5 first-round draft picks there on the defensive side of the ball. With Jack, I think he's licking his chops right now just to see, okay, hey, who would attack? We're watching all these film all the way back to Cleveland, to Arizona. I think they're going to find all the weaknesses until the Cowboys fix it and stop it. If they're going to stop it, now he's going to attack until until you prove to him or beat him. With the deep ball until he has to back off a little bit. But that's his mentality all along. Is his motto is that, hey, we're going to attack and be aggressive, and we're going to play smart football until they beat us. We're going to put the pressure on the quarterback to win the game.
Dat, who's smarter, defensive players or offensive players?
Who is it?
There's a lot of smart offensive players.
Who is Andy Reid?
Defensive players. So I think it's all, we're easier for us because we are running to and reacting, where they have to know, hey, they're disguising this and they got lined up and we're going to snap the ball. Hey, where did that safety go? What did the corner do? So there's a lot of adjustments. So you got to take a lot of stuff on the offensive side. I say offensive player has to be more, IQ has to be higher on the offensive side of the ball than the defense side of the ball.
Yeah. Fish, you brought this up earlier. How different does this defense, Cowboys defense, look if Sean Lee's on the field at least, part of the time?
It's smarter. I would bounce back to you. How different might this defense look if they wouldn't have changed defenses? Changing defenses without a training camp, that's never been done. Obviously, I wonder if they could go back and undo that that they would say, you know what, we're going to install our the defense that we really want next year, because some of the personnel is the same as last year. A lot of it's the same as last year, and they're way worse than they were last year. I think they should have simply kept the same defense. He kept the same offense, so there's no right or wrong on how to do it. I think their hurry to install a new defense has really hurt them, and to take things full circle, is at the center of this Cowboy crisis in confidence and conflict.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that, Mike, because remember Coach Parcells came in and he wanted to change that 3-4.
Yep.
Guess what?
Wait until next year.
He's in second year. Yep. And as a lot of teams, your 3-4 base or your 4-3, more likely your change up and third down is going to be an odd front. If you're a 4-3, if you're a 3-4, guess what? Your nickel package is going to be a 4-2-5, which is technically a 4-3. If they can change back, just go back to the nickel and add the Sam linebacker and make it very simple and keep it that way. So it's not that complex to go back to what they did last year from a 3-4. It's not that complex.
Remember last year,
personnel might be different.
Marinelli got criticized for having it's too vanilla. But there's nothing wrong with vanilla if the 11 guys know what they're doing.
Bend but don't break.
Right.
You know what's amazing, fellas, is we were led to believe that it would stay a 4-3 and put a few concepts in, like you're talking, Dat. Were you not thinking that this offseason too, Fish?
Coach said it. He said we're a four down lineman team.
Right, and maybe they are a 4 down lineman, but they're not attacking. They're catching, and they're catching a lot of yards running. So
Nate, you're confident in 5 weeks this offensive line is going to perform different than they are now.
I think they are.
Do you have that same confidence that this defense can learn as they go and they will be better 5 weeks from now, or is this just what you have on the field for the rest of the year?
My thing is based on how many snaps Dontari Poe get. If Dontari getting a lot of snaps, I don't feel good. If you let Tyrone Crawford, who's starting to get better, you let Antoine Woods, who can do his 30 reps. If this kid Gallimore can attack and not catch, but attack, I think they can get better. These are grown men. Like you said, they're young men, but they're grown men, but not Dontari. But decrease his snaps. Let that Hamilton kid play more. I saw a better team for the first 3 series with him in there, with Leighton in there, guy that can at least communicate and get them lined up, and letting Jalen run free. They will be better. But if they continue with the same guys led by Dontari, which he probably didn't get a lot of snaps, and I'm probably just too through with him, and holding something against him because he was supposed to have been a veteran guy that I really bragged on a whole lot this offseason. And if they get him out of there, I think they can be better.
Let's go around the horn before we get out of here. Fish, the Cowboys win if, and then what's your score prediction?
I am so tired of getting burned by picking the Cowboys. They are 0-1,000,000 against the spread, first of all, if you're a gambler. So I'm going to change my tune. I am not going to pick the Cowboys to win, and I'm going to hope that I'm wrong. I'll go Washington 27-24, and I must get this in. The smartest group, outside of quarterbacks are smart. Offensive linemen are that is a collection of different brains that all come together. That's the most philosophical room in the building.
Thank you.
Right? It's 10 philosophers. Old country philosopher over here, old pot smoking philosopher over there.
You talking about Stepnoski?
Old Ivy League guy over there.
Got under a minute left. Nate, Cowboys win if, and your score.
No turnovers. This thing is built around our offense. If Zeke get in there and get 100 yards and don't turn the ball over and Pollard be a part of this, they win the game.
All right. Dat?
Cowboys going to win if defense gets a turnover. So get some takeaways. We need to get some takeaways, and the Cowboys will do fine offensively, and I think the Cowboys are going to win 27-14.
There you go. Well, fellas, this has been great. Fish, thank you for joining us. Nate, always a pleasure to sit next to you. Dat.
Thanks, Dat.
Dak, whatever they want to call you. It was great seeing you, man. We got to do this again. It's good seeing your face, good hearing your insight. A lot of fun for the show. You've been listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!